Good morning, students. Welcome back to this software engineering class again. We are discussing about software requirements. Okay, so one more final topic, but important topic is there in the software requirements, namely software metrics. I told you several times about the software metrics. The basic purpose of software metrics at any point during development project is to provide a quantitative information to the management process so that information can be used to effectively control the development process. That is the idea behind this software metrics. So they give you a quantitative idea about the particular activity that is currently going on. So that depending on the value, we can understand whether the particular stage of development is going in the right direction, whether it is cost effective, everything can be calculated using that quantitative measure. Now, coming to this software requirement specification, at the end of the software requirement specification document preparation, we should ensure that whether what we have done is correct or not. So a software matrix is used to find the worth of this SRS document. There are two parameters based on which the SRS document is evaluated. There are two metrics for software requirement specification, namely size and quality. Size and quality. And the size of the SRS document, software requirement specification document, is calculated in terms of function points. Now, let us start with the size. A major problem after requirements requirements are finalized is to estimate the effort, cost, and schedule for the project. Okay, these things are necessary. For this, some metrics are needed that can be those metrics can be extracted from the requirements and used to estimate cost and schedule. Okay. So the primary factor that determines the cost of a software project is the size, naturally. The size determines the cost. Okay. A commonly used size metrics for requirements is the size of the text of the SRS document. The size that size could be in terms of the number of pages or number of lines, number of parameters, number of functional requirements. Okay, these things decide the size of the SRS document. Okay. Function points are one of the most commonly used measure for software size. Okay, that is the one. Okay. So what do we do in the function points? In function points, the system functionality is calculated in terms of the number of functions it implements, the number of inputs, the number of outputs, etc. Okay. So the parameters that can be obtained after requirements analysis and that are independent of the specification language. So these are the things that we do in the function points. Okay. There is a list of parameters are there to compute the function points. Okay. So these parameters are namely the external input type parameter, external output type parameter, logical internal file type, external interface file type, external inquiry type. Let us see what are all these things one by one. Okay. Each unique input type that is given as input to the application from outside is considered as a external input type. Again, I tell you, each input type that is given as an input to the application from outside is considered as an external input type. Then coming to external output type. Each unique output that leaves the system boundary is an external output type. That is, each unique output that leaves the system boundary is an external output type. Next parameter, each logical group of data or control information that is generated, used and maintained by the application is called as a logical internal file type. Okay, logical internal file types. Then coming to external interface file types. Files that are passed or shared between the applications are called as external interface file types. Okay. Coming to external inquiry types. See, a system may have queries or queries. A query is defined as an input-output combination where the input causes the output to be generated almost immediately. Okay, so each unique input-output pair is called as a external inquiry type. So these are the 5 parameters used in computing the function points. Okay. See, these function points have been used as a size measure very extensively and have been used for cost estimation. Okay, so these are some of the advantages of function points. Some of the drawbacks are that a major drawback of the function point approach is that the process of computing the function points involves subjective evaluation at various points, and the final computed function point for a given SRS may not be unique, and it can depend on the analyst. So based on different analysts, the function points may vary. The computed function points may vary. This is the drawback of function point approached size of a SRS document. Okay, the next software metrics for SRS document is the quality. Okay, the quality of a SRS document has a direct impact on the cost of the project. Okay, naturally. So we should ensure that the SRS is of good quality. For that, we have to impose some quality metrics. Okay, the quality of an SRS can be assessed either directly by evaluating the quality of the document, by estimating the value of one or more quality attributes of the SRS, or indirectly by assessing the effectiveness of the quality control measures. Okay, used in the development process. So the number of errors found is a process metrics. Okay, that is useful for assessing the quality of a requirement specification. Okay, if the number of errors are less, then the quality of the SRS is somewhat good. Okay, that is one other thing. So these are the two metrics, namely size and quality, that are applied on SRS document. Both give you a quantitative measure that gives you an idea about the quality of the SRS document. Okay. Okay. So we are finishing chapter 3. Now we are going to the next topic, software architecture. So recall what we discussed in the very beginning about the stages of software development. Now, first activity is feasibility and SR requirement specification. The second activity is designing. The third activity is coding. And the fourth activity is testing. So for whatever we have discussed are feasibility study and the requirement of the software. Now we are going into the designing aspect of the software development. Okay. So before going further into the architecture, let us have some background of this software architecture. Okay. See, for building a specified software system, designing of the software architecture is an important step. First of all, the architecture design should be done. So then only we can go for coding and everything. Okay. Any complex system is composed of subsystems it may have. Okay. That interact under the control of system design, such that the system provide the external behavior. Okay. So when you design such a system, the logical approach is to identify the subsystems that should be part of the system, and the interfaces of these subsystems and the rules for interaction between the subsystems. All these things should be there. Okay. So our software architecture is there to identify the subsystems, finding the relationship between them, finding the interfaces between these subsystems, and the rules for the interaction between these subsystems. Okay. During the architecture design, we made some choices like what type of middleware we are using, and the backend databases, and what type of server we are using, and the security components that we are using. Those things are decided during the architecture design only. Okay. So on this architecture is also the earliest place where properties like reliability and performance of the system, final system, can be exposed, can be analyzed and evaluated. Okay, so software system architecture is such an important phase of the software development. Now, what is the definition of this such a software architecture? Okay. The software architecture of a system is the structure or structures of the system which comprise software elements, the externally visible properties of those elements and the relationship between them. That is the definition of a software architecture. Once again, I tell you, software architecture of a system is the structure or structures of the system which comprise software elements, the externally visible properties of those elements, and the relationship among them. Okay. See, after getting the requirements from the client and everything, the problem analyst finally prepare a document. The document is requirement specification document, software requirement specification document. So that is a textual material. Like that, the software architecture is also having a document that describes about the various aspects of the architecture that is being used. Such a text document is architecture description. Architecture description. So this architecture description of a system describe the different structures of the system. Okay. One thing you should know very clearly is that there is no particular single architecture for a system. Particular single architecture for a system. Okay. There might be several architectural views, several architectural styles for the very same system. But your architecture document that should specify various architectural views of the system that we are designing. There are important usages of architecture description document. Architecture description document. Okay, the first usage is understanding and communication. An architecture description is primarily to communicate the architecture to its various stakeholders. Okay. So the first usage is understanding and communication. An architecture description is primarily to communicate the architecture to its various stakeholders. The stakeholders might include the users who will use the system, the clients who are going to commission the system, the developers who are going to develop the system, and of course the designing people, the architects. So this architecture description document is an important means of communication between these various stakeholders. Okay, so the remaining things we will see in the next class. Okay.